This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Final hour, Nordo in for PA. Hopefully when the Purple are taking the long way home, that they return to the States 4-1. Joining me from a bit out west, Paul Charchian at Paul Charchian via the X Machine. And Paul, good morning, first of all. And I wanted to get started with just simply enough. What'd you think of Sammy D last night? Darnold and the Seahawks, it was a bit dramatic at the end. They get the field goal to win it. But what'd you think of our old guy handling Kyler and those cards?
Sam Darnold's look great. And I prepped up 5 questions for Nordo for this topic. By the way, fun to be back on the Friday Football Feast, even not in person. You know, this is really awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a muted feast because there's no Buffalo Wild Wings, there's no T-shirts, there's no Warren from St. Paul bouncing around. It's just the two of us talking, but I couldn't be happier that you're with me.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Sam Darnold's looked really, really good. I thought he had another good game, and all of his games have been very impressive. He entered last night as Pro Football Focus's top-ranked quarterback. He continues to look very much in command of this Seattle offense. Going into the offseason, when the Vikings chose not to re-sign him, I think we sort of mollified ourselves by saying, well, you know, that Seattle offensive line is going to get him killed back there.
Yeah.
But Gray Zabel has played really well, and that offensive line is giving him plenty of time to deliver passes. He's doing what he does, make quick reads. His average time to throw is 2.5 seconds, and Sam Darnold has looked very capable. Making, I think, a lot of really good throws, the likes of which we saw for much of last year. And this brings me to my first of 5 questions for Nordo. I'm in Utah. You're there.
Yeah.
Has there been in town any seller's remorse over letting Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones both leave the organization? No compensation, and maybe there wasn't a way to get any compensation, but both guys have walked, and both guys have looked honestly terrific with their new teams.
Yeah, I think there has been seller's remorse from a social media perspective. I haven't seen anybody go long form in the media or those of us that flap our gums for a living. But there's absolutely been seller's remorse. It's been reactionary, though, Charch, of course, to the start that the Seahawks have had. Now they're 3-1 through 4, and save for I believe a loss to the Niners week 1. They've looked terrific, and Sam Darnold has been the patriarch of that offensive effort. We talked about it yesterday with Jackson Smith and Jigba, and just that chemistry there. That rookie, finally getting to see him last night, Horton. He's going to be
he's good.
He's going to be a nice player as he matures in the league, and Darnold just hasn't fell off. Now, the seller's remorse. You play games with numbers and you think about whatever it would have cost to keep him. And you know, we can get to Daniel Jones on this too, but whatever it would have cost to keep him, he does the 3-year deal, nearly $100 million or 90, something like that. His cap hits around 13 or 14 this year. But you think about it and it's like, well, would you rather have Sam Darnold or Javon Hargrave? You got to start to kind of play that game, combined with, at the time during the offseason, what up, Scraps? You remember at the time is truly a healthy JJ McCarthy. The team was clearly ready to put him in the driver's seat and have this development process take place. And so through those first 2 games, I mean, specifically after the Falcons game, you're like, all right, well, 8 quarters, only one of them has really been competent. I think that led you down the road of Darnold. And then also with Daniel Jones, I think part of it's on the back of Jonathan Taylor leading the team in rushing this year. But Daniel Jones has looked really freaking good. And it's kind of like,
he has.
You know, Shane Steichen down there in Indy Charge, maybe it's similar to KO, different types of offenses potentially and philosophies. But in some ways, did Shane Steichen, whether it's a Flacco and figured out how to win a few games with him and now Daniel Jones, it's like, I just need somebody that doesn't turn the ball over and is competent enough to just run this thing at a level where my defense is going to make plays and I'm going to run the heck out of the thing with Jonathan Taylor. That is a hand meat glove fit. It appears early on. We'll see this weekend against the Rams. But yes, I think in reactionary like ways, looking back at just some tough times for the kid QB, there is some seller's remorse, I believe, with both Darnold and Danny Dimes, who is now throwing like $1.
Yeah, and it's possible Darnold and Jones would both, even if we had paid them requisite money, that they both just weren't going to stay because they knew the future lied with J.J. McCarthy, and McCarthy was going to get a long opportunity to prove himself NFL ready.
Yeah.
And Darnold and Jones they want to go start games. They want to play the game, and they want to establish and reestablish that they're NFL competent quarterbacks. So maybe there was no way to keep either one of those. But either one of those guys. But if they continue on this trajectory and JJ continues on his trajectory, that's going to turn into a pretty big talker in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. If JJ continues to struggle and Daniel Jones continues to look like comeback player of the year, Sam Darnold, not ironically, I mean, he's right now he would not be out of conversation for MVP. I mean, this is the level that these guys are going at. So. I assume it's not getting a lot of steam yet, but if things continue, this could be a big talker October, November, December.
Well, you know how this works though, Charch, is right now, yes, it's absolutely a talker with Darnold and Dimes and what they're doing with their respective teams. But you know how this town has worked with quarterbacks over the course of time. If Carson Wentz, I mean, we got the Bismarck go crazy angle to this, grew up a Vikings fan. If he keeps winning games,
yeah.
They're going to forget about Darnold. They're going to forget about Daniel Jones, and they're going to go right on to Carson Wentz. So those 11 jerseys are going to blow up if Carson Wentz continues to win games.
Yeah, I can't quite follow you on that path entirely because Wentz will not be the starting quarterback in week 7, right? That will be JJ. And JJ hopefully looks good, and we never see Wentz again if everything goes according to plan. But if JJ struggles, he's still going to get a month to struggle, and then it would be back to Wentz. And I don't know. I don't see a scenario here where Wentz turns into a town favorite all of a sudden. But we'll see how this thing plays out. It's still a lot to.
I don't either, but the way that, again, reactionary wise, people so quickly can just go. I mean, well, Brosmer looked like he had a better command of it than JJ anyway. I've seen that out there in the abyss. And Carson with his experience, just the fact that he went in there was a level of calm and veteran poise he offered against the Bengals that you did not see in those first 2 games with JJ McCarthy. And then in combination, I mean, I'd love to see number 9 playing with Christian Darrisaw in front of him. I'd love to see him when Donovan Jackson gets back from the wrist thing, and Ryan Kelly had a toe, and then he had a concussion, and now it sounds like he's going to be in the mix this weekend against the Steelers. I just think people are quickly ready, to say, nope, this didn't work. I think there's some confirmation bias. If you didn't like him into the draft, then you're certainly kind of looking for cracks in the edifice to see to say, I was right. He doesn't have it. Time to move on. So it's kind of ugly there, but it's still, I've kind of leaned in where you're at, Charch, where, him lighting it up and winning games into the break, that's super cool, but the plan has to be J.J. McCarthy so you know what you have for the long term, right?
Yeah, and hopefully you have the solution. If you don't, then the Darnold and Daniel Jones decisions are going to have a lot of resonance in that town. All right, you mentioned Donovan Jackson. He's not going to play in this game. He officially ruled out, but we knew that was going to be the case. His replacement is going to be is it utility guy Brandell? Who's it? Blake Brandell? Who's it going to be?
Yeah, it's Blake Brandell at left guard. So last week we had 4 of 5 with Darrisaw, Donovan Jackson, and then Fries and O'Neal. We'll still have 4 out of 5, but now Donovan Jackson's out. So it'll be Blake Brandell and Ryan Kelly shall be returning. That was kind of the injury news from out there. I think that other than Van Ginkel, who was spectacular in his short stint of 8 snaps last week, had a couple of sacks. He's out, so now we need Dallas Turner to handle business. But other than that, it sounds like Javon Hargrave, who left with a chest at some point. Nobody else is carrying an injury designation other than clearly the quarterback. I think Urasek, the tight end, and then Mr. Van Ginkel. So we should be mostly healthy. And Brandell, in spots he has performed. Yeah,
actually, I think he's performed pretty well. Every team needs utility lineman guy. And Brandell's proven he can do that. And this is not as big of a loss as some of the other ones this offensive line has had. Question number 2 of the 5 that I have for you, and I don't know if we'll get to all 5, how do you evaluate Donovan Jackson's play so far? And do you see this is the loss of Donovan Jackson enough to potentially change the outcome of the game?
I don't think it'll change the outcome of the game. I do have a heavy belief in the team. Donovan Jackson threw 2, and maybe this sounds stupid for saying this. So Darisaw, he's out with the injury. When he's happy and healthy, best O-lineman on the team, one of the better left tackles in the NFL. We know that. Through the 2 games, though, Justin School, it was a disaster. Nothing good to really say about it other than a few moments in the run game. And Will Fries, working his way back from a season-ending injury a year ago, I thought he was really slow to go. And then even Brian O'Neill, at this stage of his career, I thought Brian O'Neill was getting taken a bit. And so through 2 games, Charge, I actually believe Donovan Jackson may have been the most consistent and highest quality of the O-linemen through those first 2 games. And then you hear he's playing through the wrist in the Bengals game. I love Donovan Jackson. I think they hit on a guy, and I'm just excited for him to get healthy. But he's an absolute dude, and he's a mauler. Got things to learn, got beat in that Falcons game on a stunt by James Pierce, I believe. But overall, I think they absolutely nailed this one. And I'm excited for him to be back and be that left guard for many, 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 many years. But in terms of the outcome of this in a vacuum game, Brian Kelly coming back helps. Darisaw playing most, if not all, the snaps helps. I just think with the way, and this is a team that features TJ Watt, so 2 or 3 snaps that are good from TJ can still wreck the game. I know that. But what I've seen from this Steelers defense so far as a team, even with TJ, they aren't affecting quarterbacks the way that you would anticipate, the trademark of a Steelers defense. So with Blake Brandell in a game, knowing he's going to play left guard, it's not in and out with Darisaw at the left tackle spot, I think we can get through this. But we'll be very excited to have Donovan back probably after the bye or maybe shortly after that.
When we talked yesterday, and this is question number 3, I was a little bit surprised when I brought up Jordan Addison that PA shifted the conversation to Jalen Nailor and his belief that Jalen Nailor will have a meaningful role in this offense. I see it a little bit differently. I think Addison moves immediately to the number 2 receiving option on this team. But tell me what you believe are reasonable expectations for Jordan Addison in his first game back.
Well, I lean your direction as well. Now, I like PA's kind of angle that with Jefferson, he requires XYZ amount of attention into Jordan Addison, who is a game changer. Tomlin went out of his way during his presser. Weird pressers by Tomlin, by the way. He just talks at people for like 13 minutes and then eventually gets to questions. But so the head coach, Tomlin, is very clearly all about kind of controlling the direction of things. And that's okay. Tomlin's done his business at a high level for a long time. But I lean in your direction where I think Addison comes in. He's immediately number 2. And they work their way through things. All I've heard is that he's still in immaculate shape. And the disjointedness maybe of not being able to really practice and be at full speed, getting those practice reps while you're on suspension. I get that matters, but he's had this whole week to jump back into the mix. I do like PA's idea that those 2 back in the mix certainly could open things for Jalen Nailor. He's played his tail off and he's run some terrific routes and he's been there as an option. We just couldn't get it to him. But I lean your direction in totality that Addison is going to come in. Is there a chemistry thing that needs to be worked out with Carson in short order? Certainly. But Addison was probably the best overall player in training camp. Just absolutely firing bullets all day. He was every day during camp. I like Addison to come in and immediately be a difference maker for the offense.
With you. Let's talk DK Metcalf. Stopping him is very important. He is obviously a physical beast, unlike really anybody else in the NFL. The Vikings cornerbacks generally small, except Jeff Okudah, who brings size to that position. But Jeff Okudah is also not very good in coverage, which is pretty important. What do you think? He's currently ranked as Pro Football Focus's 136th best coverage corner. Yeah. So I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here. And we're not trying to throw a bunch of shade around, but that's just the reality of what we got. So what do you do to try to match up with DK Metcalf, who can wreck a game. He can turn a win into a loss for Minnesota if he gets requisite targets, end zone looks. DK Metcalf can be a game changer.
Yeah, he can be. I actually, and I don't recall exactly how you laid things out when we were talking about it purely from a fantasy perspective yesterday, but I just look at the way the Vikings handled Jamar Chase. So 5 of 6 targets. I think he had 50 or 60 yards on Sunday. And when Browning could find him and when Browning wanted him, Browning got him. Chase made the receptions. There's no doubt about that. But limiting the explosion is really the A topic here. But the reason that Jamar didn't have a blow up game isn't necessarily whether it was Okudah or Isaiah Rodgers, even with the historic day that he had. Fact of the matter is we were in Browning's lap a ton. And so I think in some ways the way that you defeat, similarly to the way you shut down Jamar Chase, isn't necessarily the brilliance of coverage as much as it is the chaos that you're presenting Aaron Rodgers at his feet on Sunday at Croke Park. And that means Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, they're winning in the interior of that offensive line. This feels like a potential Grenard game. If you look at the stats, whether it's Broderick Jones at left tackle, Isaac Seumalo at the left guard spot, they've conceded 6 of the 7 sacks that Rodgers has taken. Rodgers is not mobile. Rodgers wants nothing to do with this. Rodgers might be the smartest guy on the field, and he's in this match of wits with Harrison Smith lurking in the back. The Okudah, the physicality element of DK, that's the tough thing, is Okudah, by all accounts, super tough dude. DK is a Greek god cut out of stone. You don't out physical
yes.
DK Metcalf. So I think DK is going to get his a bit on Sunday. Like, I think it feels like a potential 6, 7, 8 reception day, and maybe we're talking 70 or 80 yards through the air specifically to DK. But I think that the pressure that you're able to present up front against Rodgers is kind of how you battle that and maybe mitigate some of the deficits that we have in the measurables, the physicals, the stats there.
Yeah, pass rush is just critical here. Steelers rank 31st in pass block win rate.
Okay,
according to ESPN. That's not good. And coming after Aaron Rodgers is going to be very, very important. I agree that the best thing you can do for your secondary to help out is a little bit of what we saw last week, where Jake Browning was absolutely smothered on most plays and just didn't have time and the wherewithal to be able to make his reads. And hopefully you can get to that as well. That certainly helps your secondary. There is a matchup problem for DK. If you're right that he's sitting on 7, 8 targets, that's going to be a challenge. And I think if that ends up happening with DK Metcalf and he's coming down with 7 or 8 receptions, it's going to be indicative of a much closer game than I think Viking fans want to have.
No, I agree with you there. I just think in one way or another, not to discount Rodgers, I like us getting to him 3 or 4 times on Sunday. I like it being a massive problem for the Steelers offensively, starting with the fact that I don't think they can run the ball. They've all but given up on Caleb Johnson because of that special teams related L. Jalen Warren might be talented, but I still think that the issue, and I'm trying to think of some of the old names like Villanueva, I remember, and then there was this, is it Brett Keishel, or they had this O-line in front of Big Ben for a number of years. And Big Ben mitigated some of those O-line issues because he was impossible to take down, but they started conceding O-linemen. And the quality of that front moving company went down the tubes in a hurry. And whether even if it was with Najee grinds his way to 1,000 yards, but you're not calling that running attack explosive by any means. And now this year, Jalen Warren might be talented, but the combination of just a little bit of heaviness to that run game, the O-line isn't moving anybody. I just don't think they're going to be able to run the ball on this Vikings front on Sunday. So I'm just kind of conceding that at some point, Rodgers is going to be the smart guy that he is, and he's going to be flashy, and he's going to fool us, and he's going to win with DK a bit. I just don't think that it's going to be material to the outcome of Sunday's game.
All right, my 5th and final question for you, Nordo. Jordan, you know how I felt about Jordan Mason coming into this season. Felt like he was going to be a huge part of this offense. That people, I think, especially throughout most of the offseason until we got into preseason, didn't realize that Mason was going to be so important and heavily used. And last week we saw him in his first real starting role for Minnesota, rolls up 116 yards, 7 yards per carry. this is a clear path to victory against a Steelers defense that ranks 24th in ESPN's run stuff win rate. And this could be one of the paths to victory. And I feel like, if you told me right now that we're going to get 18 rushes out of Jordan Mason, I'd feel really confident about predicting a Vikings win. What do you think?
Yeah, I went overboard into the feast at the. You've been to a million of those feasts. You know how it works. You get a little amped up and you get crazy with it. I thought Mason might have like 22 carries or something on Sunday. He ended with 16, and that number 18 feels right. Another bell cow performance potentially this weekend against, like you said, this is the land of opportunity and the land of open turf for Jordan Mason to find on Sunday. It might be expansive. For me, and the head coach, he's even joked about it. I think in his presser yesterday, he kind of joked to the media, is like, you must have felt a chill under your feet when I called a few running plays in a row. For this offense to work moving forward, KO can fall in love with his explosives. He schemes guys open. He is a terrific play designer and caller, no doubt about it. We need to run the freaking ball. And whether it's with JJ when he gets healthy and now with Carson, the platform for which they can explode from is from an efficient and in some cases just productive, dominant run game. The teams that we are playing against have to respect the run with Jordan Mason. And we saw it come through, and it's lopsided. Defensive touchdowns in the mix. So a few of the carries you saw on Sunday were about running the clock out on the Bengals. But moving forward, this has to be a feature. And it's not about taking snaps away from Aaron Jones. When Aaron Jones is healthy, I like the tandem and Jones's ability to catch and all of that. Mason is a straight-up stud, and he is hard to bring down. He falls forward on every tackle the way we would talk about like an Ezekiel Elliott falling forward, always finding a yard or some sort of positive progress. Mason needs to be featured again, just like he was against the Bengals. If he has 18 carries on Sunday, we're talking about potentially a double-digit Vikings victory. I love that.
Yeah, there's a nerdy stat out there called rushing yards over expectation, where somebody looks at every run and at the NFL and says, would an average NFL runner make more or less yards than you did? And among runners with Jordan Mason's number of carries, he's number 2 in rushing yards over expectation at 1.5 extra yards per carry. That adds up a lot. Only David Montgomery ahead of him right now. And Mason's played great. And I think, as I think all Viking fans feel like it's been so long, really since Adrian Peterson, that we would just be able to grind out victories on the ground.
Right.
Man, would love to see some of that come back to this offense. We got a glimpse of it last week. Would love to see more of it here.
Well, and we're so locked in kind of the quarterback conversation and some things, but you have to, the combination of Mason and I can't remember whether it was you or somebody talking about it was Trey Benson. We saw Chase Brown last week. These guys are getting smacked behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, Chase Brown, you want to talk about fool's gold there with some of the touchdowns and things he had a year ago. With that offensive line they have, man, Chase Brown has no room to work. But with this new interior O-line, as up and down as it's been from a health perspective, the one thing you can't argue is that interior group so much more physical and dominant and forward focused that they've opened some terrific lanes for Mason. So the combination of the running back and the work we did to beef up the interior, that speaks to a better run game, which speaks to, again, a better foundation for whether it's Carson or JJ McCarthy to find their way through the air. What are your thoughts on this game? Just kind of 10,000-foot view stuff as we wind down this segment.
Vikings are the better team. I do expect them to win. Addison makes an immediate impact. I loved the chemistry that he had with JJ McCarthy. Obviously doesn't have JJ McCarthy, but just feel like Addison was trending into such a better player second half of last season. And I feel like he's going to pick up where he left off and unlock a lot of opportunities through the air that this team has not had through 3 games. With Mason running well, I think the Vikings are sitting on 28, 30 points, and I'm not going to suggest they're going to coast to victory like last week. This is a far better Steelers team, but it's not a great Steelers team. The real grinder game is coming up after that against a Browns defense that looks unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that'll be a lot of fun to break down. Very, very different kind of game at that stage. And we'll talk that through maybe next week to some degree. But I do think the Vikings end up winning this one. They're the better team, better personnel, and I think they'll find a way to get there.
I dig that. Hey, this was awesome, Charch. First, I appreciate you joining. I wrote down a bunch of questions for you. You end up just being the maestro of this whole thing. This was sweet, dude. I appreciate you doing kind of in some ways double duty, hanging out with me on the feast.
Is there a in-person feast next week, or is it 2 days away from Buffalo Wild Wings?
No, it is. We're like multiple weeks. Yeah, it's October 17th is the next one because they'll be in London next week. You know that, and then it's the bye week. And so, so then the following week we'll be back in person at B-Dubs and all the frivolity and insanity of it that the feast brings. So, maybe
it's like I haven't missed anything yet. I was there for the first one. You had 2 feasts without me, and now they're going three straight weeks without a feast. It's, we love the feast. It just, it feels like I haven't missed anything yet.
Well, I got to be honest. I'm still not entirely convinced you've moved to Utah. So unless you can post a picture on social media with today's edition of like the St. George Gazette, just for proof of life and proof of location, I still, in some ways, I think you're somewhere in Plymouth right now.
Can neither confirm nor deny. We will, at worst case, we'll talk to you next Thursday, Norda.
Absolutely. Cheers, my brother. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
That's Paul Charchian, at Paul Charchian via X. Thursdays, of course, for the fantasy pickup joint. Take me to Charch. And then we try to hang out a little bit on the feast if we have time to do so as well. Charch is the best. Final couple of segments. Apparently, we may have some audio from, and I think it's clear audio, of whether it's Justin Jefferson, maybe TJ Hawkinson. I hate to give you such an awful tease because I still need to find during the break what exactly we have. But I know we got some Vikings audio from overseas. Final couple of segments, we'll drop some of that in and put a wrap on this thing. It's Nordo in for PA on the fan. All right, here's what we do. It's Nordo in for PA 9 to noon, and it's a little disjointed with things kind of fast and furious happening out in Ireland. But apparently we got some audio of a few Vikings players, including Justin Jefferson, maybe TJ Hawkinson in the mix. Let's steal 4 or 5 minutes of that and hear what's going on with Jets and company. I almost said JJ. Oh, my goodness. I couldn't believe how close I was to calling Justin Jefferson JJ. It's Jets. Let's hear from the guys over in Dublin.
Justin, any early thoughts on Ireland? I know you're only here a couple of hours, but what's your first impression?
First impressions are definitely beautiful, I would say. Just getting the clean, fresh air, and just being out there on the field and just getting a little bit of movement is definitely something I didn't really, expect. I didn't really have any expectations of Ireland because I never thought that I would actually be here. But it's a good vibe, I would say.
Justin, you're no stranger to the international game, and you've always got a celebration in mind. Have you got one in mind for Sunday?
Yeah, we got a little addition to the gritty, a little Ireland addition. So hopefully I get to bust it out Sunday.
Harrison, you've played countless amount of times against Aaron, with this time in Green Bay, obviously. What makes him so good? Obviously, arm strength, and he's really just a legendary player overall. What would you say in your experiences in the backfield? What makes him so good?
It's a lot to sum up, but just his total control of the game and understanding defenses and what he wants to get to as far as play calls and route concepts and getting free plays here and there, getting us to jump off sides. So there's always something to be aware of with him, and then like you said, his arm talent is I've seen him make some throws you don't think are possible before, so he's still got that.
What's the thinking from the players on your perspective? Obviously, it's 2 weeks away from home almost. Is there an enjoyment of this this experience to get to go to 2 different countries in the space of a week?
TJ?
Got you, man. Yeah, it's exciting. Obviously, just being away from home for a little bit, it gives us time to, bond as a team, really get to hang out with each other. It's Friday night, and normally we're hanging out with our families or going to do dinner on our own or whatever. And, tonight we'll go back to the hotel and hang out together and really continue that commitment to each other and to this team. So it's fun to be in different countries and be around different crowds of people. It really shows that the Minnesota Vikings and our fans travel really well. And then not only do we have fans in Minnesota and the U.S., but we have fans over here in Europe. So, we're super excited to be here. And, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Justin, how did Jamar Chase take the feet last week?
What you say one more time? I can't hear you.
How did Jamar Chase take the feet last week?
He didn't take it so well, but that's pretty normal. Just talking to him after the game and hearing his insights on things and just talking to him through as a friend, as a brother, and as a competitor, watching him on the other sideline. It's definitely I told him it's tough just having different quarterbacks throwing to you now and not having your main quarterback. So that's definitely something that he has to adjust to and have to still operate with and figure out how to still perform and still be productive without your main quarterback out there on that field. So
have you managed to do that with Carson in a similar situation?
Yeah, really just the work that I put in myself. Just going out there and just being, technically sound, making sure that I'm catching all of the balls so he's confident into throwing me the rock. But I never really was fazed on quarterback situations. Always, felt that that confidence in myself to go out there and still perform, regardless who's throwing that ball. It's just the main thing about telling them that, to give me those opportunities, and even when I'm not the most open, to still give me those chances to go up and get the ball. So, the quarterback situation is difficult at times, especially when you're having multiple. But at the end of the day, you still got to go out there and still perform.
Justin, history's going to be made on Sunday. It's a huge deal over here. It's a huge deal throughout Europe. How much does a player like yourself, who's one of the star names of the sport, want to put on a show that people are talking about come Sunday evening?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially me. I definitely want to put on a show, and especially since this is the first time we're playing in front of people from Ireland. So this is going to be so many people out there. That's going to be the first time watching me play football. Play football, period. Some people don't even know anything about football and still coming to the game and still want to watch, what's going on and watch people put on a show. So I'm always excited for that, always excited to be in front of a new fan base and to really for people to experience what it's like to watch Justin Jefferson out there on that field. So it's definitely exciting, I would say, in that aspect. But we still got to go out there and perform and win at the end of the day. So as long as we win, that's all that matters.
That's Jets live-ish, I should say, from Ireland. Dublin players addressing the media. TJ Hawkinson, I saw, was part of the dais, and Harrison Smith, and you heard Justin Jefferson there, bringing football to Dublin. Cool opportunity for sports fans in Ireland. Cool opportunity for the Vikings to take a road game at Heinz, or whatever the new name is of Steelers land in Pittsburgh, and bring it overseas and have a blast with it and get a W, regardless of who is throwing Jefferson the ball, as you heard there from number 18. We're gonna wrap the show around the corner. Final segment next. Nordo in for PA on the Fan. Final segment, trademark 9 to noon clock management. I do apologize to management, who will let me know in about 55 seconds what they thought about it. Thank you so much for hanging out 9 to noon today. Thank you to Devin. Thank you to Greenway and Mike Grimm, voice of the Gophers. Gophers and Rutgers tomorrow. Thank you to Ron. Thank you to Paul Charchian. Thank you for listening to 9 to noon today. Go Vikings. Go United States. By the way, the Ryder Cup, if you're looking for Ryder Cup coverage, Common's right around the corner. Europeans got off to a hot start. Are the Americans bouncing back? That's the program for 3 hours following me. Have an awesome Friday, an amazing weekend. Cheers.
Radio app or KFAN.com.